I'm Paul, half of Dads and Dice, and today we are finally going to do it. We're going to rank all 35 different characters in Dice Throne. Now, before we actually do that, I'm just going to go ahead and preface this entire video by saying I am not a competitive Dice Throne player. I am just a casual fan of the game. So, all of these rankings are 100% my opinion from somebody that makes tons of mistakes in the game. Don't take this as gospel. This is just my opinions on these characters. Let's go ahead and pull up a rank list. Let's see where they fall. So the first character that we'll start off with here is Monk. Now, Monk is a character that is going to deal consistent damage. They're not doing anything super flashy. They're just going to be doing consistent damage with their status effects, with chi, with all of that. They're just somebody that you can count on at all times. Now, with that being said, there are a lot of status effects, or at least there's a lot of tokens that you have to manage in order to get the most out of Monk. And that requires a lot of management, which, like I mentioned, that's not something that I'm super interested in this game. Whenever I play it, I want to roll some dice. I want to do some damage. So unfortunately, Monk is going to be in the C tier. Now, I say unfortunately, C tier is a great tier to be at. That is a middle of the road tier. Most characters are honestly probably going to be in this tier. But it's a little bit more than I want to manage in a game of Dice Throne. So, moving on, we will go to Treant. Treant, pretty similar management style to Monk. I would say a little bit more complex than Monk because, they have the seedlings. They are a slow start. You have to build up that engine in a way in order to get the most out from them. Treant does struggle against opponents that are heavy hitters that are trying to deal damage quickly. When I play against Treant, I'm okay with that because that's generally the characters that I gravitate to, those ones that are going to be very aggressive. But Monk does have a lot of positives in team play because they're so flexible with those status effects. They can help out the teammate, or they can do stuff that will actually help them out. Whenever Devin and I played our Dice Thrones Adventure campaign, Treant was very good at helping Gunslinger out whenever we're in a tough space. So, I have played Treant more than Monk, and like I said, they were really instrumental in our Dice Throne Adventures win, so they are going to go on the B tier. Next up, we have Ninja. Ninja relies on evasion and maneuverability, right? They've got the status effects like Smoke Bomb and Poison that can inflict persistent damage or can avoid damage. Now, with those two status effects, there is quite a bit of luck involved. Whenever you're rolling those dice, you have to get between the 1 and the 3 or the 5 or 6 or whatever it might be. I don't remember off the top of my head. But relying on that really feels bad if it's not going your way. And I've had games that it feels really good because you keep rolling the numbers that you need. And then I've had some that just feel real bad because you never got the numbers that you needed. So, pretty straightforward character to play. Again, nothing flashy, but the luck factor seems to be not on the higher end for a character, but higher than what I generally like in a character. So they're going to be on the C tier. Next up, we have Paladin. Paladin, I know this one is a lot of competitive players' favorite character. I know that a lot of people really enjoy Paladin's play style. Paladin is not for me. Yes, Paladin has a very strong defense. They're very adaptable. They have tons of status effects that increase attacks or decrease your damage. But honestly, it's just too much for me. there's too much status effect management. There's not a lot of dice mitigation that happens. They have the 2, 2, and 2 dice layout, which for me, not really my favorite either. Paladin is going to go in the D tier for me. Okay, up next we have Shadow Thief. Again, another character that I know a lot of people really gravitate towards. But again, not a character that really fits my playstyle. Shadow Thief can gain tons of CP, and if they can manage the CP correctly, they're going to have a great game. Their Shadow status effect is OP if you are doing it correctly. But again, you know, it's a lot of statuses to manage. There's a lot of things going on in there. They're going to struggle in the short game. So if I'm picking the character that I want and I'm doing tons of damage on them, they're not going to be able to really withstand it. If it's going to be short, over the long period game, they're going to do much better. They've got a pretty general, just weak base attacks. Nothing flashy, nothing like that. But as you play them longer and longer, you know, they get stronger and stronger. For me, again, I like the short games. I don't want to build up this big, you know, I don't want to call it engine, but I don't want to build up my character. I want them to be strong from the get-go and just dealing out power. So Shadow Thief for me is a D tier character. Okay, so that leads us to Pyromancer. Now, if you watched my top 5 Dice Throne characters video that I did, I don't remember when that was, quite a bit ago, you'll know that I do enjoy Pyromancer. I think that she is a terrific character. That is the kind of character that I like playing. They have just a high level of raw damage. They're very aggressive. They're a glass cannon, right? That's what she's referred to. Really no defense. So if you're against the game, you know, against somebody that can deal a lot of damage, it's whoever is gonna, you know, go out first. Whoever's rolling the best dice is probably gonna win the game. But Pyromancer to me is just a solid character. Anybody can pick her up. Her status effects aren't too difficult. They're not super complicated, anything like that. For me, Pyromancer is an S tier character. So we're going to go ahead and put her right here. She's just fun to play. Which leads us now to Moon Elf. Moon Elf is very similar to Ninja, right? She is, you know, another character that is going to be dealing with a lot of maneuverability, with a lot of evasives. She's a really hit and run kind of character. She's got some dice manipulation that can happen in there to kind of help you go for those actions that you want. She's putting on consistent pressure, so that can really control the length of the game. Maybe not the length, but that really controls the gameplay in general. Like I mentioned, kind of like Ninja with the evasive and stuff like that, with the luck. A little bit slower playing than, you know, your Pyromancers or anything like that. But for the most part, she is a very easy character to play. There's a little bit of strategy in there. I feel like she's at least a little bit less lucky than Ninja, or a little less luck dependent than Ninja. So Moon Elf for me is going to be a solid B tier character. And that takes us to the end here of Season 1. Again, if you watched my video of my top 5, we've got Barbarian. It should probably be no surprise to you that I think Barbarian is an S tier character. He's what I want when we play Dice Throne, right? He is just going to deal tons of damage. He's going to do his sturdy blow. He's going to just hit you hard with his large straight that can do tons and tons of damage. Again, it feels kind of bad if you're rolling bad for him, but for the most part, I want a character that has minimal status effects. I want a character that's going to deal tons of damage, and a character that just feels good to play. Again, you know, I am a casual player of the game. He's probably not the best competitive player or character, but for me, I think Barbarian is an S tier character. Moving on to our Season 2 characters here, and we're going to start off with Gunslinger. Now, again, these are just my opinions. I've played some of these characters more than others, so they're a little bit more favorable in that way. But up next we have Gunslinger, and I did the entire Dice Throne Adventures campaign with Gunslinger, with Devin being Treant. So I have some really good familiarity with Gunslinger. Gunslinger is another one, for me at least, that is very consistent in the attacks that she can do. You know, she's got the reload, which is going to do more damage. She's got some defense and some attack, so she's working both ends of the spectrum there. She can be a little weak in some long battles. She's nothing super flashy, but what she does well is plays both sides of the fence. You know, she's got some good attack, she's got some good defense, nothing flying out, you know, nothing that makes her much better than anything, but she does everything well, I feel like. So Gunslinger, to me, that is an A character. That is somebody that I will pick if I have the option to play somebody. Definitely pick her over a lot of other characters. So for me, Gunslinger, solid A tier character. Which then leads us to Samurai. Now, I haven't played Samurai as much as a lot of these characters, but Samurai, to me, you know, they do get stronger with their honor status effect, which I think is pretty cool. A very thematic character with Samurai. It can end pretty quickly if you're playing with Samurai. You're doing tons of damage. You know, if you have some bad dice rolls, it feels pretty bad to be on playing the side of Samurai, just because there's not a ton that you can do with it. Now, when you've got the, I think it's Backlash, that status effect, that feels good. Whenever you get damage done to you, you can return some damage onto them. So that feels good. Other than that, there's not a ton of defense that Samurai can do. Again, they're nothing flashy. I think it's a fine character. It's just a character that doesn't really draw my attention too much. One that I haven't played a ton enough to make a, you know, super informed decision with. But from my plays of Samurai, Samurai is a C tier character for me. It's one that I would play. It's not one that I'm going to gravitate towards, but that is going to be Samurai. Just a solid mid-level character. Up next, we have Tactician. Tactician, we can just go ahead. This is going to be a D tier character for me, pretty much for the same reasons as Paladin and Shadow Thief. Tactician, I can understand how that is a great character. You need a good pilot in order to get the most out of it. I am not that pilot. They can take control of the game if they're gaining their status effects tokens and if they're spending them at the right time. It's a very methodical play style, which again, that's just not me. They're very balanced, you know, between both offense and defense. But again, it is a very high complexity character. There's a lot of management and timing and your status effects and how you want to spend them and when you want to spend them. And for a game like Dice Throne for me, which is battle Yahtzee, right? I want to battle. I don't want to think too much. I want to chuck some dice. I want to do some damage. And Tactician is just a little bit higher of a complexity than what I would want in a character. After Tactician here, we have the Huntress or Huntress. Huntress is a fun character. I think this was the first character that introduced the companion status, or, you know, just the companion with Naira. I thought that was pretty cool. She's got a unique gameplay where some of that damage can be transferred onto Naira. Now, that is some management that needs to occur in there, but honestly, the management with that is better than all the other status effects. Now, of course, there's still some timing that you have to do in order with when you want the damage to go to her, when you want the damage to go to Naira. She's got a really unique style with that. They do control the momentum quite a bit of the game. but you know, if she loses Naira, then it's going to be hard to kind of get back into it. Again, it's not a character that I usually gravitate towards, but I do see how a lot of people find her fun and unique to play. But for me, Huntress is going to be a C tier character. All right, up next we have Cursed Pirate. Cursed Pirate. It's a very, very cool gimmick, right? She has the pirate version of herself, or the ghost version of herself, I should say, that as soon as you flip that over, it's a ticking time bomb, right? It's gonna be who can end the game fastest, who can do the most damage. So it's a really cool gimmick. There's high risk, high reward whenever you're doing that. With that being said, I've never gotten the reward whenever I'm flipping her. It's a thing that I'm never sure when I should do it, when I shouldn't do it. She is another one that I feel like it's very luck dependent. Again, maybe it could be the pilot. That's not me, the best pilot on there. She can burn out very quickly, and just that whole timing mechanic. Now, with that being said, I do think it's super cool. I do like playing very aggressively, so it is a character that I lean a little bit more towards, and I have fun playing her, even though I've never piloted her very well. So for me, Cursed Pirate is a solid B tier character. Honestly, mainly because of her gimmick of flipping that over, and just the fact that if it does work out in your favor, man, it feels really cool. Up next on our Season 2 characters here, we have Artificer. You guys probably know already, just by the way that my list is going, Artificer is a D tier character for me. I feel like I just keep repeating it over and over and over. It's a very complex character. There's a lot of resource management. You need to slow play him in order to get the best out of his bots. Now, his healing bot, his nanobots, all those things are super cool, super thematic. They did really well making an Artificer type character, but for me, it's just a little bit too much. What I do enjoy about Artificer is that the luck is very minimal with him, just because he does have all of those ways to mitigate his attacks, make them stronger, make them not, or defend more. And so I really do appreciate that with the character. But for me, the character is just above my complexity range. It's not one that I would gravitate towards. So Artificer for me, D tier character. All right, so next up here we have Seraph. And Seraph is, you know, just a reliable character, right? They're going to do reliable damage. They're going to be very adaptable to the situation that they're playing. They do well in a longer game. Now, they do have some luck with their healing, and of course some of their status defenses. They don't do super well in short games, or at least from the games that I've played. I've noticed that they don't do too well in that. To me, Seraph is just a character. Nothing amazing about her, nothing terrible about her. Not really one that I would generally gravitate towards, but they are, at least for me, better than the D tier ones. So we're going to put Seraph here on the C tier. Which then takes us to our last character from Season 2, and this is going to be Vampire Lord. Vampire Lord does have quite a bit of statuses to manage. They're very good with healing, right? And stealing other people's health. And so they've got a lot of that going for them. They're going to be very reliable, very consistent with the damage that they do produce. And then again, with the absorption of other people's health. Now, with that being said, there is a lot of resource management in there, which again is not my favorite mechanic in this style of game, but I do find Vampire Lord to be a little bit better than the other heavy resource ones. So we're going to put her on the C tier. Again, not a character that I'm generally going to gravitate towards, but better than a lot of the other heavy resource management characters. So that is going to be all of the Season 2 characters. Let's go ahead and move on to Santa and Krampus. All right, we've got these two characters here. They were, the holiday special. Both of these characters, honestly, a ton of fun to play. Santa and Krampus are both extremely thematic characters. They do super well, playing against each other. Santa is basically winter barbarian. He's very adaptable. He can be very aggressive. He is a bit chaotic with giving out, gifts and stuff to his opponents that might help them. He can be a little bit lucky, but overall, I think Santa is pretty much just like Barbarian, just a little bit more chaos in there, and a little bit more management. I think that Santa is a great character, but not such that it's going to make it onto the S tier. They are a very solid, very high A tier character for me. Which, on the same vein, Krampus's Misfits are extremely fun to play. They're very easy to manage. You've got your other just separate deck of cards. Not hard to look at. You just look at the characters there. Whenever you're gating your, I forget what it's called, his status effects. But you get those cards, you can play them. He doesn't really have a ton of defense or healing unless it's with those cards, so there is a little bit of luck, but not a ton. Again, I think Krampus is a solid character. I would play them anytime. They are definitely an A tier character for me. Okay, now moving into my favorite battle chest here, my favorite characters, my introduction into Dice Throne. This is Marvel Dice Throne. And we'll go ahead and start off with Scarlet Witch. These are the characters that I've played the most by far. So with that being said, there's a little bit more that I'm willing to overlook, or a little bit more that I can comment on about their placements on here. So with Scarlet Witch, their dice manipulation is just off the charts, right? They've got their reality warp. That's going to help, just change the dice of the opponents. It's going to take somebody's dice, right? They've got a lot of dice manipulation happening on there. Her status effects are very, very strong. It does take a little bit to be able to control her, to pilot her as well as you should. But overall, I think that Scarlet Witch is a very, very fun character to play. They are going to be on the B tier here, which then takes us into Black Widow. Black Widow, ton of fun to play. She is very adaptable. She's got some good offense, some very good defense with her agility. Now, again, going back to your ninja or your moon elf, where there is some luck involved with the dice that you're rolling, that can always happen. But she's not going to deal a ton of damage. She's going to try to avoid a ton of damage. She's just a ton of fun to draw those cards and upgrade your dashboard that you have in front of her. She is just extremely thematic. One that I will gladly play. I know that her management can be a little bit more than the characters that I really, really like playing. But Black Widow is just such a fun character. And I really enjoyed my plays with her. She's going on the A tier. Then after Black Widow, we have Black Panther. Again, if you watch my top 5, you know that Black Panther was my favorite character of all time. They're still very high up there. That may have changed just a little bit. But what I really, really enjoy about Black Panther, it's just one that, I always want to play. They're very straightforward. They're reactive with the damage that they are taking. They get to build up and then eventually explode. If you mess up that timing, it can feel bad at times also. But once you've learned their play style, once you've played them enough times, you can kind of work on that timing. Black Panther is probably the character that I've played the most out of any of these. And for me, that puts Black Panther on the S tier. After that one, we have Mighty Thor. Again, going back to my video, there's no surprise here that Thor is going to be on the S tier. Even before they were nerfed, or should I say even after they were nerfed, Thor is just such a fun character to play. I think they did such a great job with all these Marvel characters, making them extremely thematic. I just love throwing Mjolnir and just doing those little peppers of damage, just peppering the opponent with damage. They're just a lot of fun to play, and I will play Thor literally at any time. Really, really great character. Which then takes us to Spider-Man Miles Morales. Spider-Man Miles Morales is a character that I absolutely wanted to love. I've tried playing Miles Morales multiple times, but I've never had any satisfaction playing Spider-Man. It kills me to say it. The defense feels bad. Even after they were buffed, with Thor getting nerfed, Miles Morales getting buffed, it just doesn't feel good to roll and not get what you need for the defense. It seems very luck-based, which is not something that I want, especially with very, very little mitigation that Miles Morales has. These can be over very, very quickly. And honestly, it is probably my least favorite character to play. I'm sorry, Miles. You are going in the F tier of Dice Throne. Which then takes us to Captain Marvel, another powerhouse, the female Thor, if you will, just dealing damage like no other. She is just another straightforward powerhouse, somebody that's going to do consistent damage. Not my favorite character to play, but definitely a character that I do enjoy, and that is going to be on the A tier. Again, nothing flashy, nothing, out of this world extraordinary, but a fun character to play. Honestly, could possibly make it to the S tier, but very, very high on my A tier for me. That is Captain Marvel. Which takes us into Loki. Loki is a ton of fun to play. Loki is extremely thematic. They will just frustrate your opponent. There's been many playthroughs, or a couple playthroughs, I should say, where Devin has played Loki. I have played Black Panther, and he has just consistently blocked. I want to say it's my triple threat on Black Panther. I don't recall exactly, but man, he would just block it every single turn, and it felt bad. Loki can have tons of control. But then on the other hand, they can take a lot of damage, or they could take no damage with the illusions. It's really cool, but it can be just very swingy, which isn't something that I'm a huge fan of, especially when you have to bluff in order to get the most out of those illusions. I'm not the best at bluffing, so Loki's illusions never go well whenever I am trying to do them. But everything else about Loki, I can see why people enjoy him. I want to do better with Loki. So for me, Loki is going to be a B tier character. Just purely based on thematics alone, because I am terrible at piloting Loki. And then finally, we're going to end Marvel with Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange has a good amount of ways to manipulate his dice. He gets stronger as the game progresses with his spell book, having more spells in there. Now, the issue with the spell deck is it can be pretty swingy. Maybe the one that you need you don't get until late in the game. And if you're going up against somebody, like Barbarian or something like that, they're going to knock you out pretty quickly. Personally, I feel like they play similar to Krampus. Krampus's Misfits, Doctor Strange's Spellbook, but Krampus is just more fun to play for me. Doctor Strange, not a character that I'd ever really go for. They are going to be a C tier character for me. Nothing really wrong with Doctor Strange. not a whole bunch of things right with Doctor Strange, but I would just rather play other characters than Doctor Strange. So now let's move on to the X-Men. These are the characters that I've obviously played the least because this box just recently came out. So these decisions are kind of more of a first impressions more than anything on where they fall on this tier list. Cyclops is great in teams. You know, we have not played missions, but from what I've seen of Cyclops, from what I've seen of the actual cards, I feel like Cyclops is very good when you are playing with a teammate. They're pretty easy. They are going to deal consistent damage. They're nothing special, at least from the gameplay that I've had with them, and from what I've seen about them. For me, Cyclops is going to be a solid C tier character. Honestly, it's probably going to be the one that I reach for the least in the X-Men box, but I think that's kind of where they fall. After that, we have Storm. Storm was one of the characters that I was very interested in playing when this box was announced. I think the largest straight was just super cool. Just being able to steal other people's dice and just get a giant straight to be able to do tons of damage. This is another character that has a companion with lightning, and so you're charging up your effects to make them stronger. That does take a little bit to plan with the resource management. When do you want it to explode to do the 2 damage instead of the actual charged ability? They can struggle a little bit to get set up if you're not rolling for your companion. If you're not getting the lightning, you're not going to be able to do the most damage that you can. But overall, I think that Storm is a great character who's going to fall solidly on the B tier. After Storm, we have good old Wolverine. Talk about a straightforward character who is just going to do as much damage as they can. Rage is all they're going to do. Honestly, Wolverine is an A tier character for me. The Rage is going to do tons of damage. They're going to do tons of healing, which just fits Wolverine's personality, his character perfectly. You know, it can feel bad if you don't have the cards to discard in order to do Rage, but if you can get everything well, I think Wolverine is a great character, one that would be awesome to introduce people with to Dice Throne. Overall, I think they're a solid A tier character. Then we have Rogue, who is a character I wasn't super looking forward to. I thought what they could do would be really interested, but after my playthrough of Rogue, I actually kind of changed my mind a little bit. Their passive is super fun. It reminded me a lot of Black Panthers, with them taking in damage, and then having the Ionic status effect will then make their attack stronger. It had a little bit of the Vampire Lord's stealing ability in there that let them heal up a little bit, which again, just super thematic for Rogue. They are a little bit dependent on who you're playing. You know, if you're playing somebody that's doing tons of damage, you're going to get a lot of those Ionics. If you're playing somebody that just does, you know, little damage, you're still going to get the Ionic, but not nearly as much as you would against a harder hitting opponent. But overall, Rogue really did impress me. Originally, I would have thought they would have been a, you know, D or C tier character, but they did really well with Rogue, and that is a solid B tier character for me. After Rogue, we have Iceman. Iceman, again, another one that I was super excited to play. After playing them, I'm a little unsure, or after seeing them played, I'm a little unsure where they would fall for me. The Glide is super cool, and if you can get them back to back, you know, that's going to be dealing tons of damage at a time. It feels really good. If they're playing against somebody that can block your status effects, for example, like Psylocke, it's going to feel bad to not get your Glides, your whatever the other one is. I forget off the top of my head, but the ones that you need to trade in order to get the Glides, the Ice Shards. It feels bad playing against a character like that. There can be a lot to manage kind of with the freezer. It's not a lot, but it's leaning on more than I would like to have. This one is kind of tricky for me. B tier, C tier, it's falling in one of those two. Honestly, at this point, I don't know. We're going to put them in the B tier just because they are one that I was super looking forward to play, so I'm definitely going to play them more. I would definitely pick Iceman over, a Cyclops at this point in time. But again, this is kind of more of a first impressions with these X-Men. So for right now, Iceman is on the B tier. Which then will take us to Psylocke. In Psylocke, they've got real fun gimmick, again, with her dice that you can lock, and you can either add more damage or interchange one of your dice with it. Now, with that being said, it was kind of low impact in the game that we had. Yes, it did add 1 to 3 damage every now and then. I don't think I actually ever changed out a dice for it, so it wasn't anything, that like helped me get a straight or anything like that, at least not that I can remember off the top of my head. Like I mentioned, when they played against Iceman, though, it felt good to have the, I forget what the status effect was called, but it blocked Iceman from getting his shards or his dice cube. So it can be pretty strong. It's got some strong debuffs in there for the other players. As of right now, not a character that, super speaks out to me. But they're going to be going in the C tier. Again, probably would pick them over Cyclops right now, but I know Iceman I would pick over Psylocke, and same with Rogue. So Psylocke, B or C, we're going to stick her in the C tier for now. Which will then take us into Gambit. Gambit was the one that I was most looking forward to. And honestly, probably the one that let me down the most. I want to say that. Maybe not. I'm unsure. I say that and I just feel bad saying that. I know Gambit was a higher complexity character from the beginning, so that alone made me a little hesitant to play them. He hits hard. He's pretty flexible with his acceleration and his ace cards, right? You can decide which one you want. But that, going back to my original point, if I don't want to manage too much in a game of Dice Throne, you could get into that of which one should I do, which one is better. Sometimes I just want to chuck dice and put stuff on cards, right? I don't want to have to think too much about it. He's very resource heavy. He can be a little bit lucky, right? If you're not getting the acceleration that you need, the symbols that you need, it will feel bad. But, he's got a really cool theme, and it really does fit him. Unfortunately for me, as much as I want to like him, he is going to be a C tier character for me, at least in this moment, until I get better at playing with him. For this moment, C tier, it kills me to say that, but that's where Gambit's going to land right now. Which will then take us into Jean Grey, the Dark Phoenix. Jean Grey, honestly, was a ton of fun to play. They reminded me of Cursed Pirate, just not as luck dependent, I guess. Not as high risk, right? So when you're playing as Jean Grey, you're going to take your income phase plus an extra card. When you're playing as Dark Phoenix, you're not going to take in your income phase, but you're going to be doing more damage. I thought that was done really well. I loved the fact that the leaflet was actually, just on top of the board, and not one that you would completely flip over. I thought that was done really well. Honestly, I was not looking super forward to playing Jean Grey, but they just completely impressed me with the play. It was a ton of fun. It's definitely one that I want to get better at. Jean Grey is going on the A tier for me for X-Men. Which brings us to the final character here, and that is Deadpool. We actually did not back Deadpool in the original Kickstarter because Deadpool isn't a character that Devin and I generally gravitate towards. The op actually sent us the character box and we got it played. And honestly, I was shocked at how much I did enjoy playing Deadpool. I had to kind of lean into his playstyle because he's extremely thematic, but he's extremely chaotic. Uh, he's pretty straightforward with his status effects. He's got his donut, which is going to heal you. He's got his rock, paper, scissors, which throws in a little bit of luck in there. But again, Deadpool, so you want that luck. Or it feels like you need that luck to play him. And it was just fun. Like it was just silly fun, right? You've got the onomatopoeia where you're just gonna bang, bang, right? And do some more damage. Or if you're playing against somebody like Devin, if Devin was piloting Deadpool, you'd have the curmudgeon token because you don't want to say Taco Tuesday or whatever it is, taco truck. Overall, I was very impressed with Deadpool, and that's going to be a solid A tier character for me. Again, just kind of surprised at how much I enjoyed playing that chaotic character. But yeah, so that's it. That is all 35 characters of Dice Throne, all Season 1, Season 2, Marvel, and X-Men. Now, again, this is for my playstyle. I like chucking dice, doing damage, in and out quickly. I know a lot of these characters are probably some of your favorite characters, and I apologize if it's not where you would put them, but that is definitely where I have put them. Go ahead and drop a comment below. Tell me why I'm wrong. Tell me why, Pyromancer is not S tier, why Miles Morales should be S tier and not F tier. But all in all, this isn't good fun. This is just something that, I've been thinking about doing for a while. And now that all of the characters are out up until this point, obviously Outcast is coming out later. We did not back Outcast, so as for now, this is all the characters that we're going to be playing. But other than that, again, just a fun, silly little list. Don't take this as gospel. Let us know what you think of this video. As always, like, comment, subscribe. All that stuff really does help us, helps our channel grow. Till next time.